After a weekend of hype at the Tokyo Game Show, we once again return to the hero's path, a series in which we visualize the different journeys of some of the most prominent characters from Breath of the Wild during the Great Calamity. As expected, the team at Koei Tecmo didn't spoil too much in terms of story, showing only gameplay sections taking place pre-Calamity, and even the trailer kept things quite abstract. We did, however, get to see Impa in action, and were presented with a bit more of an idea about her role in the story, which is perfect for this episode. In today's topic, we will cover the three most prominent members of the Sheikah tribe. That being Impa herself, her sister and Sheikah scientist Pura, and ancient technology expert Robbie, all of which are still alive during the events of Breath of the Wild, albeit older, or in Pura's case, younger, depending on how you look at it. Joining me in today's episode is my fellow countryman and veteran Zelda theorist, Dr.Wily. Make sure to head over to his channel after you're done watching this video, as he has a lot to offer, not just on the subject of Zelda, but also Mario, amongst other topics. Now, the final two episodes in this series are going to be a bit different than the previous ones. Unlike Zelda, Link, and the other four champions, we don't actually have a path laid out for any of these characters in creating a champion. So these journeys will be based on that which we do know, the most prominent Zelda theories, as well as just best guesses in general. So take these paths with a grain of salt. With that out of the way, let's jump right back into it.
Since we don't have a definitive path for the Sheikah during the Calamity, we first have to establish the starting point for each character, which we can base on various bits of information. Robbie and Pura are the easiest to pinpoint. All research into the Guardians and other ancient Sheikah relics was performed at Hyrule Castle. Both the Akala and the Cluda tech labs were not established until after the Calamity was over. The heart of controlling the ancient relics and storing the data collected lies in the Guidance Stones, of which a significant amount were also being kept at the castle. This means that both Pura and Robbie were most likely at the castle the moment the Calamity started. They may have even set up a temporary home in this area, since research was done on a daily basis, and would have saved a lot of time traveling from Kakariko village to the castle every day. This is further supported by the following sentence found in Creating a Champion. On the day of the Great Calamity, the surviving Sheikah from the castle in Hyrule Castle town fled to their hometown of Kakariko village. This indicates that some Sheikah did indeed live in the main capital of the Hylians, and Pura and Robbie were most likely among those who did. Impa is a bit trickier though, since she herself was not directly involved in the research as far as we know, and instead acted as the official advisor to the royal family. Being an advisor doesn't necessarily mean she would have to be at the castle at all times, or even live there like the others. And in the new Age of Calamity gameplay and trailer, we can see that she tagged along with Link and his group for quite a bit throughout the events preceding the Calamity. On the day of Ganon's rise, however, she's not present at the Landaroo Promenade to meet with Zelda after her pilgrimage to the Spring of Wisdom. This leaves us with two options in regards to her most likely location. Either she's at the castle with her sister and Robbie, or she is at her hometown Kakariko village, waiting for the party to return from the promenade. Now, for the sake of pacing, we're just going to pick one of these locations as a starting point. There's no evidence for or against both options, and it doesn't really impact the overall arc of the story too much. So we are going with Kakariko village for this theory, for reasons mentioned earlier, as well as the fact that in Age of Calamity, she's seen tagging along with Link and Zelda at Hyrule Castle during the Calamity. Sure, they could have met up at the castle, but on the other hand, meeting one specific person amidst all the chaos would undoubtedly be very difficult. So it's safe to assume that she joined them to the castle from Kakariko. With the position of all characters now set, we can finally start outlining their paths from the moment the Calamity starts.
After Zelda and the 5 champions witness the rise of Ganon, they make their way through the promenade and towards Kakariko. There, they rendezvous with Impa, who tags along with Link and Zelda towards Hyrule Castle. Impa has all the reasons to join them, as she will want to ensure the safety of her sister Purah and other fellow Sheikah who reside at the castle. They traverse the same path laid out in the section that covers Link and Zelda, down Sahasra Slope, following the Hylia River north, across the Rebone Bridge, Mabe Prairie, and into Castletown through the main gate. By the time they arrive, the Guardians have been corrupted and Hyrule Castle itself has turned into absolute chaos. As mentioned in the story of Link and Zelda, it's likely that the events at Hyrule Castletown will be a playable section, where the princess, hero, and Impa try to fight off as many Guardians as possible. They may even make their way up to Hyrule Castle itself, and Age of Calamity does seem to show sections where they actually are at the castle and not just the town square. For Zelda, the main motivation would of course be to confront Ganon himself, as well as find her father, King Rome, who resides somewhere amidst all the turmoil going on there. But for Impa, the main goal would be to locate her sister Purah and her friend Robbie, who were likely at the castle doing their daily dose of research when disaster struck. This potential playable section up to Hyrule Castle might be an actual rescue mission to attempt to save their loved ones. Impa manages to meet up with Purah, Robbie, and any other surviving Sheikah members. After realizing that Hyrule Castle and town are beyond saving, and with the area flooding with more and more Guardians, Impa urges Link and Zelda to meet up at Kakariko Village and discuss a new strategy from there. At this point, getting as many people to safety is the main objective, since Zelda still hasn't managed to awaken her power and thus confronting Ganon is futile. With little time to linger, Impa, Purah, and Robbie gather up as much of the ancient relics as possible in an attempt to salvage it for future use. This includes parts of 2 guidance stones, the very same we find at the Necluda and Akala tech labs in Breath of the Wild. From here, they would likely make their escape through the east gate of Castletown, through the Romani Plains, Applian Forest, and across the Rebone Bridge. They then move south along the Hylia River, up the Sahasra Slope, and into Kakariko Village.
Though their journey towards Kakariko is a dangerous one, the Sheikah are not the prime target of Ganon's army. That would be Link and Zelda. This would explain why they managed to reach Rebone Bridge ahead of Link and Zelda, as by the time the hero and princess reach the bridge, it's no longer safe to cross, and they would have to move south alongside the other side of the Hylian River. Although not being the main target, the Sheikah's escape route could still be a playable section, where Impa needs to defend the scientists and other potential survivors from any Guardians in pursuit of them, or monster hordes obstructing their way forward. As of yet, we don't know who the other playable characters in Age of Calamity will be, but since she's accompanied by Robbie and Purah, one of them might be playable as well. Impa seems to be the fighter of the group, but there are passages in Robbie's memoirs that describe him as someone who would dispose of Guardians himself in a one-on-one situation when he was younger. However, it remains to be seen if either him or Purah will be doing any fighting, since they are scientists first after all. All in all, it is safe to say that the Sheikah's escape from Hyrule Castle to Kakariko was an important one, as the preservation of some of the ancient technology will prove to be crucial in the future. Now, after reaching Kakariko, the Sheikah survivors hold up at the village and nervously await the arrival of Princess Zelda. After she fails to show up, the worried Impa dispatches various Sheikah warriors to track her down. Creating a champion makes it abundantly clear that Kakariko village was never touched by the Guardians. The natural border of mountains surrounding the village, as well as the fact that the Sheikahs were not Ganon's main focus, kept the village secluded and out of harm's way. But as we have seen with Gerudo Town and recently with Goron Village in the latest gameplay demonstrations of Age of Calamity, there's always still a possibility of Kakariko Village having to deal with monster attacks. This would grant the option for Impa to have one final gameplay section where she has to keep her hometown safe from any potential invaders. As from this point on, her role in the story as a fighter would basically end, since as far as we know, Impa never left Kakariko beyond this point in the story. In the meantime, 2 of the Sheikah warriors dispatched by Impa locate the princess and the hero in the fields of Blatchery Plain in front of Fort Hateno. While they carry the mortally wounded Link to the Shrine of Resurrection along with the Sheikah Slate, Zelda finally meets up with Impa at the village. After discussing a new strategy, Zelda continues on her journey to Hyrule's Great Forest alone to return the Master Sword and face Calamity Ganon. However, Impa instructs Robbie and Purah to make their way to the Shrine of Resurrection located on the Great Plateau to assist in operating the facility.
Although we don't have any information on how exactly Purah and Robbie got from Kakariko to the Great Plateau, the most likely scenario would be that they follow the same path as the two Sheikah warriors carrying Link to the facility. With most of the Guardians at Fort Hateno disposed of by Zelda, it is by far the safest route to take. They move across the road next to Blatchery Plain and follow the path in between the dueling peaks, past Dea Village and across the Proxim Bridge. From there they cross the ruined outpost located at the foot of the plateau and up to the Shrine of Resurrection. By this point, Central Hyrule has long since fallen and the battles here are over. Most of the remaining Guardians have likely moved out of the province in search for more blood in the surrounding areas, such as the Gerudo Province, Tabantha region, across the Bridge of Hylia into the Faron region, Lanayru and Akkala. This would have granted Link, as well as Purah and Robbie, a safer passage onto the plateau. There might be a small chance that this journey towards the Shrine of Resurrection taken by Purah and Robbie is playable. However, out of all scenarios presented, this is by far the most unlikely one. We have no idea if either of the two characters will even be playable, first of all. And second, in this point of the story, the main focus would obviously be on Zelda's journey. Still, we wanted to at least mention the possibility before finishing up this episode, as this will be the last gameplay scenario presented. From this moment on, we pretty much know how the story ends. Link is laid to rest by Purah and Robbie, and Impa remains in Kakariko village while Zelda finally ends the war by sealing the Demon King inside the castle. With Ganon now sealed, the remaining Guardians and 4 Divine Beasts no longer pose an immediate threat. Though the Guardians still remain dangerous if approached, they have turned into mindless drones who roam the landscape without coordination or purpose. After the two Sheikah scientists return to Kakariko village, Robbie, Purah and Impa decide to separate and live their lives in different parts of Hyrule far away from each other. This way they increase the chance that at least one of them will be alive to meet with Link once he finally wakes up and assist him on his journey. In the years to come, Impa becomes chief of Kakariko village, while Purah and Robbie set up their respective tech labs in Necluda and Akkala. Purah continues her research into the ancient Sheikah relics using one of the guidance stones they managed to salvage from Hyrule Castle. And with his modified guidance stone, Robbie manages to develop the ancient arrow, the first weapon to be effective against Guardians. Some say that this was his way of atoning for his deepest regret of not being able to provide Link with the weapons effective against the Guardians on the day of the Great Calamity. Though his discoveries came decades too late, his inventions will still prove to be useful when Link finally makes his inevitable return. For the next 100 years since the day of the Great Calamity, the three patiently await the return of the hero.